everyone, and welcome back to another episode of the Silicon Dreams and Radio Zindagi 1550 AM. I am your host, Sharlaine from Orbis 86, and today we are thrilled to welcome Genevieve Leveille, CEO of AgriLedger, who has over 25 years of experience in the financial supply chain optimization and digital identity. She is a recognized leader in DLT and has worked extensively in financial inclusion and serves in various influential advisory boards. Welcome, Genevieve. It's great to have you on our show.
Thank you so much. It's such a pleasure to get to meet you, Sharlaine.
Awesome. Yes, likewise. And I think with that, we can dive straight into your journey because a lot of our listeners are excited to hear. So, could you share with us your journey that led you to become the founder and CEO of AgriLedger, and also what inspired you to venture into the agricultural sector with a focus on blockchain technology?
First of all, I've always loved to learn. So my learnings, like I actually have a degree in biochemistry, but a minor in comparative literature because I was bored because you only had midterms and finals. So I wanted to keep my life fun. And this is the same way, I have passions, and one of my passions is food. And I uncovered in 2015 this thing called blockchain and BTC. I was in London and I really started to get to learn more about it. But unlike most people who got in early, I didn't get into the token. I got into the possibility of the technology.
Right.
And that's because what I had been doing for many years before. So I actually not only worked in financial services, I worked in
Mhm,
entertainment. I worked for about 2 years at MTV Networks,
mhm.
where I basically helped. And at the time, that was MTV, Nickelodeon. And I
Right.
worked, how could we use technology to simplify the life? And so I always found a way. And before that, I'd work at Sloan Kettering, where again, I was putting technologies. That was the early 90s. And we were talking about getting data to the desk, to the floor desk, where you were getting the papers, but the data was on the computer. So I've always been in the cutting edge. And when I saw blockchain and I had been doing some stuff in digital identity, I said,
Yeah.
oh my God, this is the electronic book, which is going to help us really simplify relationship in trusting,
Mhm.
and create trust between different groups. And how can we get this information? So I then thought, you know what? If I'm going to get into this space, I need to make sure it's something I'm very passionate about. And believe me, it's not really so much about a passion, not eating, not that I eat a lot, but if I am hungry, I am not fun. So I, when I was, I did a project where at the bank we were implementing SAP,
Mhm.
and that was during 2012, and I was in India at the time. So that was because we couldn't be in London because you had the Olympics going on. So we moved everybody to Bangalore.
Right.
And lunchtime was usually when I had to get on a call with London.
Oh.
And the team quickly learned, if you don't feed her, she's going to be a real pain later. So even though they had this rule, you couldn't eat on the floor, the office floor, they
Yeah.
snuck they would snuck me a full tray, and the guard would
Wow.
bring the food because she's going to be. So it's really, to tell you, for me, I thought I need to sort of look at the technology from a
Mhm.
standpoint of something which I am passionate about. And having grown up in Haiti, having been in India, I've actually seen what food security or lack of food can do to people. And sometimes the food is grown right there, but because you
Mhm.
can't get it to the right people or to those who need it, it's getting wasted. So there is a lot of byproduct in
Yeah.
this with food waste, um, and looking at the fact that financing is also an issue. So
Mhm.
really, this got me to thinking, how could you change this world? And in my point of view, I've got another, it's very funny. I've been getting into the idea of age tech,
Mhm.
and realizing that 60 is a new 40.
Yep.
So we can no longer think, okay, I've got 5 more years of work to do and I'm going to
Mhm.
retire. Challenges
Right.
are going to be, it's not about retiring in 5 years. It's the
Mhm.
fact that you're probably going to live another 20 to 25 years and you need to finance that. And what
Yeah.
we get as retirement for the, like maybe you start accumulating from 25 and nowadays that's no longer happening as
Mhm.
well to your 65, that's not going to save that's not going to give you enough money. And if we look at what's happening with governments running out of funds
Yeah.
for insure, like basically old age insurance,
Yeah.
you can to start thinking, how can I be enjoying what I do
Mhm.
and at the same time make money?
That is true. That is definitely a question for a lot of the youth also today, because everyone has this passion inside them, but then they can't really take up to it because how does it make me money is the bigger question. Getting back to AgriLedger, I want to know from your perspective, how does it aim to transform the agricultural sector using blockchain technology?
It's a data play where you also need to understand
Hmm.
each protagonist, what do they need?
Hmm.
Tend to many time focus on the bottom and
Yeah.
on the top and forget everything in middle, or say we're going to cut out the middle. Well, the cutting out of the middle is just a false positive, because you have what people don't understand mostly in food is a
Hmm.
lot of regulation. And then the
Hmm.
other thing, in my point of view, is if you are having everyone go against each other,
Yeah.
the person who's buying has the power to demand a price.
Yeah.
What the blockchain gives you is the ability to demonstrate this is my contribution to the pot.
Hmm.
And so when something gets sold, you're not. So I think that people who, I commend people who are trying to do farmer direct to buyer, but you
Hmm.
do need a distributor because unfortunately, each buyer will have different requirements,
Yeah.
and farmer does not have the ability to do the transportation, the transformation, and more than anything else, the negotiation that are necessary.
Hmm.
So we need to make it to where the middle people are. So what I like to say, it's about removing unnecessary intermediaries, but
Okay.
really rationalizing those who are part of it,
Hmm.
and then making sure that it is a shared journey. But through that shared journey, everybody is successful. But if you are, and the other challenge is that there's no funding in
Hmm.
agriculture.
Yeah.
When we look at agriculture, 10% of funding goes in agriculture, but that 10% is not to the farmer. What the farmer usually gets is aid, and then you have the investment at the top, and then the middle has nothing. So the
Hmm.
middle is exposed, and the one at the, and so because they have the power of getting to the buyers,
Yeah.
they then direct the farmers. Versus if they had a more of a symbiotic relationship and we could put in the right financial mechanism,
Hmm.
which insurance, assuring that price are being met, then they have more of a power. So for me, I think, when we talk about power in a distributed environment, it's
Yeah.
about how do you create to where that collective has
Hmm.
the power. It's not about taking it away from the top. And what I've found is it's you don't even need to get the buyers to change their pricing.
Hmm.
You just need to remove the waste. So if you're removing the waste and you're assuring that they're not going to lose money, that not 40% of what they're receiving is junk, then they can be much more comfortable knowing that the investment that they're doing is going to go bring back. Then finally, by bringing in that transparency, you
Hmm.
can now start bringing in the investment. The reason why investment doesn't go in is, first of all, agriculture as a business is probably one of the most risky businesses,
Yeah.
but in other ways, it is one of the most assured business because everybody has to eat. If you don't eat, you're dead.
Yeah.
So there's always going to be a need for food.
Hmm.
And I mean, even when we are talking about plant food, it
Yeah.
still needs somebody to grow the plant to
Of
be able
course.
to put food. So that whole scaling is part of it. But rebalancing, so one of the questions I've been asking a lot is the farmer used to be the richest man in town or the
Yeah.
richest woman in town.
Hmm.
Why is it that today they are the poorest or the
Yeah.
bottom society? Well, this has to do with a trust challenge. Trust from them that the amount that is due to them will be paid, and
Hmm.
trust market that what they're getting is actually what they're supposed to be buying. So
Right.
you have, as a result, a whole bunch of people participating as trust points.
Yeah.
Well, if the choice point is not bringing any value,
Hmm.
then need not be. And that's really what you can get with the blockchain is that certification of who was supposed to touch it, who has touched it, where has it been. And it's not just blockchain at that point. You're using IoT, you
Hmm.
could be using drone. It's really where is the data coming from and
Yeah.
who's participating.
Right, absolutely. And I think I love the initiative in terms of financial inclusion and, the whole supply chain transparency. I think that's commendable. Getting into some case studies, could you share with us actually some success stories or case studies where AgriLedger has made like a significant impact on agricultural communities?
We have one major one, which we
Hmm.
did, and which was in Haiti with the World Bank. And
Okay.
there we were, and actually, there's been a lot of lessons learned from that,
Yeah.
which led to other small projects that we've done, and through the learning, really looking at how we approach. So one of the challenges I think that we have, before I tell you about the story, is we lead with technology.
Right.
We should be leading with technology. We should be leading with the problem statement and the
Hmm.
solution to that problem statement.
Hmm.
But we as individuals cannot give the problem statement for others. We
Yeah.
may have a perception of what their problem is, but we need them to articulate so that when you use the technology, it's secondary. We don't
Hmm.
talk about what's the technology versus email. When you give somebody an email address, you tell them what they can do with it. Don't
Exactly.
tell them
Yeah.
the technology, and the reason is for communication.
Yeah.
So we did was a project with the World Bank, and it's kind of funny. They went through probably 6 years of looking at, and this is also something very important, is we
Hmm.
keep talking about supply chain. We should be
Right.
talking about value chain,
Hmm.
because the value chain is as a product move from point of inception to final destination, there are added things, there are added timing, and there's added value. So
Yeah.
understanding where it fails and accounting for where it fell is very key, because then it allows you to understand what you need to do to fix that point of failure to
Hmm.
assure that more of it can go through.
Yeah.
So we the World Bank had been working with agronomists, um, an industrial engineer, and
Hmm.
economist in Haiti. They put groups together who went around and understanding not only in Haiti, but
Hmm.
also externally outside of Haiti. They would took them to the Netherlands, it took them to the US to
Hmm.
understand what the markets were and what markets were asking for.
Hmm.
And then they said, okay, uh, how do we run this? And somebody said,
Yeah.
well, what about blockchain? Which
Wow. Okay.
because what
Hmm.
happened is that it wasn't just the farmer, it was the
Hmm.
farmers, the transportation, the transformation,
Yeah.
the marketing, and the buyer.
Yeah.
So without putting even the transportation of the boat, because that was taken care of by the exporters and the importers, you
Hmm.
still have information that you need to know. You need to
Right.
know that that the product was what was required, the temperature was kept, and that the prices of what it costs to do, so the cost accounting of everything
Hmm.
leading to the product being sold.
Yeah.
And by moving people who didn't need to be in between, you really stop the waste. So with Haiti, unfortunately, the project went live in May 2020.
Okay.
So remember, this was the beginning of the pandemic.
Yep.
It was supposed to go up a little earlier. We're supposed to go around February, March, But
Okay.
because COVID had just come in and nobody knew how you got COVID, is it from touching something, which was with somebody with COVID and all those things? So finally, we went live in May, and we ran a very retracted because you didn't want to have too many people meeting with each other. Obviously, it was done with gloves, with masks, and all these things.
Mhm.
But they were able to do 6 mission, and through that, they were able to demonstrate an increase in the farmer. The farmer went from about 2%
Mhm.
of the revenue of the mango to 68% of the revenue of the mango, which ended up being nearly a 750% increase in.
Mhm.
But
Right.
more important also is that they were able to demonstrate a 74% decrease in waste and a
Okay.
48% increase in export. So the farmer was receiving 90 cents
Mhm.
for a dozen.
Yeah.
And with that, they were now receiving $7.50
Wow. Okay.
a dozen. And it wasn't really changing much else,
Mhm.
except, yes, like some of the program talk about direct to,
Mhm.
but this was a direct to the person who needs to take care of it to
Yeah.
get it in the right format.
Right.
This has led me to understand that, but very key to this also is
Mhm.
that the World Bank created a fund to where when the goods were bought in by the farmer, they got the price of the market,
Mhm.
the low price. So the price before any kind of transformation,
Mhm.
which was that 90 cents for the dozen.
Yeah.
As think went along, if it made it to the external market, well, it sold for $20 to $30 a dozen,
Yeah.
and it took care of all the expenses that needed to get it to market.
Mhm.
And then the difference is what went to the farmers.
That's great. And, through this journey, I'm pretty sure, there have been major challenges that you've encountered. So, while implementing DLT solutions in agriculture, how have you addressed some of the challenges that have come your way?
The challenges have been everything from geopolitical to, obviously,
Mhm.
we talked about the big one, which was the pandemic. But
Yeah.
before the pandemic in 2018, 2019,
Mhm.
we actually had lockdown in Haiti.
Okay.
So if anybody's aware, I mean, it's, I would say, a bloody mess still. The
Mhm.
gangs have taken over, but before that, actually, people were sheltering at home
Mhm.
in order not
Okay.
to be caught in the street. It's gotten worse. So that was one level. What
Right.
really killed the program, and it's kind of funny today, I'm actually this afternoon meeting with a group of people from Haiti who want to
Okay.
talk on partnering. So hopefully we can reopen the uh the pathway to doing this
Mhm.
again.
Right.
And because one of the key things is I don't use any cryptocurrency or stablecoin or any of that. It
Okay.
is, they
Okay.
say they want to receive it. Do they want to receive it in cash? Do they want to receive mobile money, or do they want a wire? They can
Mhm.
indicate that, and they can indicate and change that every time that they bring the goods.
Mhm.
So which means that there is no exposure. Yes, there is an exposure to the FX rate and everything else, but
Mhm.
it's the same way. If somebody wanted to say, I want it in crypto, then just give me your crypto account and
Yeah.
we'll send it there. So the
Mhm.
choice is really to the individuals,
Okay.
the farmers, the individual in the transportation, everybody
Mhm.
else. When we were ready now to go
Mhm.
and do other commodities,
Mhm.
the Haitian president was killed.
Oh.
So
Yeah.
that has meant, retracting from that, not being able to
Mhm.
continue and take this to a production level.
Mhm.
But I still kept busy. I did a small project, which could
Mhm.
have been here with an NGO in
Mhm.
Africa. Unfortunately, we took the role of being just a tech provider.
Okay.
And what I've learned is you cannot be just a tech provider.
Yeah.
You have to become involved in the design thinking,
Yeah. Yeah.
has to be a design thinking approach. And it's kind of counterproductive to technology and how we think we should build technology. There's this idea that you build technology and they shall come. You build one version and you do nothing. There's always, so I've kind of said now I'm modeling myself more toward SAP.
Right.
When you SAP, you know that you're getting SAP software eventually,
Mm-hmm.
but they come in and they learn what you're doing. You do a blueprint,
Mm-hmm.
you do a trial run, implement it, they play it back to you, then you trial run it, and then you scale it. We
Okay.
will continue to fail in scaling in the blockchain if we
Mm-hmm.
continue to think, oh, because I have trust, you have to trust that this is good enough and that it meets your need. Because the process in one community, let's say we do mango. Mango in Haiti is not going to be the same as mango in India or in
Yes.
Africa. So you need
Mm-hmm.
to understand, and even in Africa, is it Senegal? Is it Ivory Coast? How is it? You need to understand that piece. And then the
Yeah.
secondary aspect is that even the buyers will
Mm-hmm.
have requirements. So you'll be at 80%, and then you have the 20% that each buyer wants to have. That
Right.
can be programmed, but you need to know that you're going to program it. So
Yes.
that as such, also what I learned is you need to bring that investment. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
starting to be the kind of person who says, stop building just for the sake of building
Mm-hmm.
technology. Build technology when you have a client.
That definitely is true, because I think in Web3 itself, everyone's talking about the tech, but we need to start talking about the use cases and how people can actually use Web3 over just explaining, like you said, it shouldn't be explaining the tech behind an email, but how and why you can use an email. And I think that was well put. And on that note, I want to come to the last question for today. What advice would you give to aspiring tech leaders, particularly women who are looking to make their mark in the field of disruptive technologies and blockchain?
First thing is I'm hoping that we're changing. Apparently, finally, there's a tick up in terms of the investment that is going to women.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that it's understanding clearly what are you building and also what is the business case that you're solving and having a business model. Many a
Mm-hmm.
time we go in without understanding how and who our clients are going to be and how we're going to make money. And understanding also if your clients are not going to be able to pay for it, how are you still going to deliver to them?
Yeah.
And it's then also looking for mentors. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I'm totally open. I will say I'm always open. People can get in touch with me. And I am happy to provide support. And I think it's that sounding board is a great thing. And then be humble, be ready and fail, learn from your failure, pick
Mm-hmm.
up yourself and dust and continue down the road. And I do believe that the new world that we live in is
Mm-hmm.
going to be about creating your own path, which means understand your passion.
Thank you so much for those, that piece of advice. Listeners, if you're hearing this, please take note. Also, how you mentioned getting in touch with you for mentorship. How would our audience be able to do that?
So I am at G Leveille, MG Leveille, sorry, I changed it, MG Leveille on all platform. So my LinkedIn, I please feel free to share that. And it might take me a couple of days on LinkedIn, but I tend to respond to everything. And do make sure that you say it from Orbis says and that you're not selling me anything.
For sure. No, this is pure, just interaction and educational for our listeners. Thank you so much for that, and thank you, Genevieve, for sharing your incredible journey. And what you guys do is so different and so unique. It really does inspire so many of us today. And to our listeners, I hope you found this episode as inspiring as I did. Thank you so much for taking our time and being a guest today on our show.
Great pleasure. Thank you.
Awesome. On that note, stay tuned for more episodes on the Silicon Dreams, guys. Until next time,